Hello, everyone. All right, I'm going to do what is hopefully for you a quick rundown of topic 5, your expository essay. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, that we can get topic 5 done and out of the way so it's not hanging over our heads anymore. Because you are getting ready to move on to an illustrative essay that we're talking about Tuesday. And then pretty soon, before you know it, you're going to have your final paper. So let's look at topic 5, expository essay, and hopefully you guys can write it and get it out of the way and we can move on. All right, so your prompt is to contrast the ways that chivalry and courtly love are depicted in Marie de France's The Lay of Sir Launfal and Geoffrey Chaucer's The Wife of Bass' Tale. You need to conclude by explaining why Chaucer's depiction of the knighthood is so significant. Why does it matter? Why do we care? All right, so one of the things that you're going to need to do is rewrite the prompt. You're just turning this into a statement. So you would say something like, The Lay of Sir Launfal and The Wife of Bass' Tale both have contrasting descriptions of knighthood and courtly love. Something like that as your thesis, and then you're going to break it down into what is The Lay of Sir Launfal, what is The Wife of Bass' Tale, and how do they differ. So really quick, how do they differ? We might not necessarily remember. All right, so I'm just going to remind you that I did send out an email. Go through your email, look for the PowerPoint. It has some helps in there, some explanations. It also has a video that, let's see, one of these slides, here it is, that help explain the stories to you. It gives you a breakdown. But if you also go back to topic 4, I highly suggest that you read not only The Lay of Sir Launfal, which is not long at all, it does not take long to read, but that you also read the information at the beginning. When you go to where Sir Launfal is, read this beginning information, the introduction about Marie de France, and it gives you a lot of her point of view, and it answers the question of how she's showing chivalry and courtly love. She was a romance author. Everything she did was meant to be read by the ladies of the court who want to swoon over the knights, who want to see themselves as beautiful fair maidens, who want to put themselves in an escapist fantasy story where the perfect chivalrous knight rides off with the beautiful, perfect woman. It's all very fantasy, escapism, the absolute ideals of happy ever after, what it means to get your man, to get your girl. She used really romantic, flowery language to draw in her readers. She wrote in poetry. Remember, even though you're reading The Lay of Sir Launfal as prose, it was actually a poem. But because of translation issues, they have it as prose for you. You'll remember that in this book, the knight meets the fair maiden who is the fairest in the land. That's a very romantic, idealized thing to have happen, that you would come across this fairy, beautiful maiden. It's something out of a fairy tale. And he is propositioned by the queen of all people. He has a chance to be with Guinevere. And he is so in love with this fair maiden that he turns down Guinevere out of a sense of loyalty and love for this other woman. They eventually end up riding off into the sunset together, never to be seen again. They ride off to live their perfect life. And it is romance, and it is beautiful, and everybody obeys their story beats. Guinevere, who is seen as the villain, gets her comeuppance. The knight never breaks his moral code. and he is rescued by the woman, and they ride off together to be in love. It is perfect fantasy. Then, and if you read through the introduction, you'll see how she wrote in French, which was common for the nobility. This was meant for the nobles to entertain themselves. It was written for them. They wanted to look good. They wanted to imagine their perfect lives. It was giving them a fantasy. When you go to The Wife of Bass Tale and you read about Geoffrey Chaucer, Chaucer wrote in English. He was not part of the nobility. He looked down on the nobility. He looked down on feudalism, and he chose to write in English so that all the masses, all the workaday people who looked down on the nobles for being pie in the sky, they could see, warts and all, what these nobles are really like, that they aren't anybody to look up to. He used English, which is considered a common language. He did not use flowery, idealized language. He used a lot of figurative language that showed all the imperfections of people. He showed what they were really like, that the knights, the knight in the story rapes a woman. That's not chivalry. That's not courtly love. That's showing them to be just as debased as a common man could be. And something else to remember, this is a frame story, which means it's a story within a larger setting. The Wife of Bath is not the main character. She's not the main character in the story she's telling. She is a character going on a pilgrimage with other pilgrims who also do not act in any sort of idealized way. They act in kind of the reality of, they have debaucherous behaviors that we've talked about and that are in your PowerPoint. But also, she is telling a story that takes place during King Arthur's time. So she is not the main character of the story she's telling, and the story she's telling is not even taking place in their time period. She says, let me tell you a story from long ago about King Arthur's court. So Chaucer is kind of taking the idea of the Marie de Frances of the world, who he knew of, and he knew her work, and he's turning it on its head, and he's making it something kind of ugly. And so he tells his story of King Arthur's court. And in his story, his knight is a misogynistic lecher who does terrible things and has no idea how to make a woman happy, as far as giving her a voice, which Sir Launfal, in the Lay of Sir Launfal, Guinevere had a voice. The woman he ends up riding off with had a voice. But in Geoffrey, because that was very idealized, right? Women didn't want stories about how they were downtrodden. They wanted to see themselves as heroines. Geoffrey Chaucer here says, in real life, you're fooling yourself. You're not a heroine. Look, you got no power. This is how it really is. And so the Wife of Bath is trying to tell a story of King Arthur's court from an entirely different point of view about how these people behave and act. I hope that makes sense. She tells the story about the knight who does not do anything to act chivalrously, and he has to go try and find out, what do women want? And he finds out at the end, women want to be treated like people. Women want a voice. Women want power. Women want a say. So Chaucer is pointing out all the things that these women actually don't have. He's saying, you guys live in a fantasy world if you think you have a voice. You don't. And so the knight finally admits, if I want to treat a woman correctly, which he should already know what to do because of courtly love and chivalry, but he doesn't. He has to go find out, oh, I need to treat women like people. I need to let them have power and a say and a voice. And once he finds that out, he gets married. And then we all know he marries the ugly crone. If you watch the video, he marries the ugly crone, and then he's in a funk because why? Because his woman is ugly and he can't love her because she's ugly. So then he ends up being given an ultimatum. Well, do you want me ugly and happy or beautiful and miserable? And he says, do whatever you want, because he's learned his lesson. So because he's given her a voice and recognized her own autonomy, she decides to reward him by becoming beautiful and happy. But it wasn't until he acknowledged the fact that women are people too, basically. So that is the difference between the Lay of Sir Launfal and the Wife of Bath. If we look at the prompt again, chivalry and courtly love. Look at how the knights are acting. Look at how the women are described. Look at how the knights either maintain or break their moral code. Look at the level of autonomy given to women. Even in Marie de France's, Guinevere gets a comeuppance for lying about Sir Launfal. Why was it so important? Think about that. If you are constantly putting someone on a pedestal, why might it be important that someone comes along and kind of gives them a good shove off of that pedestal down to where everyone else is? Why would that matter? Think about that. All right, so for your essay, you've got your thesis. Your thesis should be the simple fact that both of those have contrasting views of knighthood. If you read through all this, one body paragraph, as a reader, you understand from this. Oh, this is an example, I think. It tells you common problems to avoid. This gives you a lot of examples. I'm not going to go through this. But if you actually read these screens, it will help you a lot in how to write your thesis. All right, so let me make sure I've got everything I wanted to say. I think that was pretty much it. Outline. I should be able to see what your outline is. I should not have to guess at the structure you're trying to use. All right, so where is this? Use the outline you completed. You should have an outline. 3 to 5 body paragraphs for your expository essay. So it's going to look something like this. Introduction with thesis. Lay of Sir Launfal, explore courtly love and chivalry. Wife of Bath's Tale, explore, and then a third paragraph doing a compare and contrast, and then wrap it up. But the important things to remember: use your resources, reread topic 4, reread the source material, watch the videos, and then complete your essay. All right, I hope that helps. If you have any questions or you're confused, feel free to reach out to me. Thanks, bye.